May God's grace, peace be with you always, today, tomorrow, forever. Amen. One of my favorite movies of all time is an awkward coming-of-age movie called Napoleon Dynamite. There they are, Napoleon and his brother Kip up on the screen. It takes place in an era that I can relate to so well, the late 80s and early 90s, full of references of that time. And if you were ever an awkward teenager, like maybe someone you're looking at, you really relate well to this movie. Napoleon is this main character, and his older brother Kip is there on the right, and Kip is really into the technology of his time. And for him, technology of this time meant a computer with dial-up internet that you had to wait about 8 minutes for it to connect to the internet and for him to do anything. And also these things called internet chat rooms. And it is in this internet chat room that Kip meets the love of his life, who lives across the country. And he loves his new love, but he also, at the end of the movie, sings a song to his bride about how much he loves technology. Not as much as his wife, of course, but still, he really, really, really loves technology. I love technology. Okay, maybe not as much as Kip. But I am one of those kids who grew up with the Atari and the Nintendo and then Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, N64, GameCube, Xbox, Wii, PlayStation 1 through 632. Okay, they're only coming up with PlayStation 5, but it seems like a lot. I was around when cell phones didn't exist. Can you imagine a day like that? Can you imagine? Or when they first came out, they were the size of your face. They were huge. My grandmother worked in a switchboard in her county, and no one knows what those are anymore. I know this crowd probably knows what they are. You remember these things. All you'd used to do with the phone, what would you use with it? Well, you'd talk to somebody, right? Now, with my cell phone, I can use it to talk, text, watch TV, take pictures, update my status, schedule my life, and remind me where my brain is. I remember these things called VCRs that we played on TVs that didn't have remotes. Now we have these things called smart TVs, and they can order pizzas for us if we want them to. Technology, I love technology, and as I've grown up, it's been a part of my life. It's fun, convenient, makes connecting with friends and family easy enough that sometimes I forget to connect with my friends and family. I love that technology gives me freedom to be away but still be connected with them. But I also recognize that technology can be a trap, a time trap, a brain trap, a resource trap. Virtual life through technology can keep us stuck in a cycle that is almost addictive. And there really are those who need to go get help because they are addicted to their technology. Technology can help or leave us feeling useless or unable to keep up with the Joneses, as it were, because technology is not always cheap. It can make us feel unworthy, that unless I keep my Instagram fully updated and making my life look unique and perfect, well, if I don't do that, I guess I'm not a good technology person or whatever it is we tell ourselves. Technology can keep us siloed, where it makes us question what is real and fake around us, depending on the voices that we choose to hear and the voices that we choose to push out and not listen to at all. Technology in our world can be great, and technology can be not so great. It can make me question what is real in my life, and it can also make me lose perspective of things around me. And technology has crept into the life of the faithful, too, people of faith and technology. It's been a question, at least a back and forth question. How does the church, how do people of faith use technology? I think it started way back when we had this thing called a printing press, and all of a sudden we were able to print all these Bibles, even in languages that you actually spoke and read, not just Latin. It probably went before that, but it's been a debate in the church and in the faith of how do we use technology for the glory of God. In my life, it's something that can be very useful for churches. It's very useful to supplement things. So we as Trinity look at what we use for technology here. I'd have to be screaming at you if I didn't have a microphone. We have these wonderful screens that you can look at when we project our service. We can stay connected and announce things to you through our website and Facebook pages. Technology helps us give to church, even if we aren't at church, with our online giving. Technology can be important and useful. But I would suggest that technology is only a supplemental part of our relationship with each other and with God especially. That God promises to be real with us and very present in our lives, something much more than just a virtual relationship with God. Our relationship with God isn't just a virtual thing, it's a real thing. We come here to this place and this morning because we confess that we believe God is real and God is in our life. And there's something to hold on to and appreciate, knowing that our God is something more than just a figment of our imagination or our virtual reality. So God is real. That is what we are confessing in this series, Real God, this morning. What does it mean for God to be real? What does it mean for God to be active and alive in your life? Well, sometimes I hear this question, prove it. If you had to prove God was active in your life, how would you do that? Show me the proof, especially those who are questioning and those who are skeptical. They ask, how do you know God is there? I love science. Kind of goes with my technology nerdism, I think. One of my first loves in school was science, and the planets and space in particular. And the big thing about science is coming up with data information. Science is there to prove how things happen or how things are. Years ago, the Voyager spacecraft was leaving our solar system, and the scientists told him to turn around and take a picture. There's the picture it took. And that little circle, you can barely even see the circle, but the thing in the middle of that circle is Earth. Earth is that tiny little speck, the blue dot that in that picture. And it humbly reminds us that we aren't as big as we think we are. Science helps do that for us, that we aren't always as big as we think we are. I also think of the cellular complexity of DNA, the basic stuff of you and me, of life. The images of DNA are incredible, these tiny microscopic building blocks. All of us in this room, we share 99.9% of the same DNA. But what makes us different is that 0.1%. Just change it a little bit, and we get this great diversity amongst us. It's amazing. The vastness of the universe, the complexity of DNA, they explain how things are. And if they were to be different in any just one little way, then everything we know might change. But why? Why are they this complicated? Why are they so intricate? Why is life this way? For me, they point to the author of life, the author of creation, one with the ability to weave together the solar systems of the universe and to weave together the basic fabric of life. Why? Because we trust that we have a God who is creative and compassionate and intelligent. A God who is not so far, far away, but one who is so near to us, so reachable to us, one who is real. Our God is one who promises to be real in our lives, to be in the midst of our lives. Our daily lives, the daily lives that aren't always so clean and Instagram-y perfect in nature. I see that in these two lessons that we have today. That God is real enough to wrestle with this guy Jacob, who's not the perfect example of a faithful, moral, upstanding person. No, Jacob we know is a stubborn cheat who refuses to let go of God until he's blessed. And God does bless him, recognizing the holiness of Jacob in his wrestling in this relationship of God. We all wrestle from time to time. We all struggle from time to time. But this story tells us that our God is one who will enter into that, wrestle with us, and will bless us in the midst of our wrestling. Our God is real enough to handle our stubbornness, our doubt, our questions. Our God is real enough to love us because of them. I think our God is also real enough because our God enters into the things that are the hardest for us. Things like death. In this Lazarus story, we see that God and Jesus is real enough to weep over the death of someone he loves. Death is real. Even for those who are close to God, we know death is real. Death is real for us, and it comes for us all. It comes for the ones we love. And yet God's realness promises us that not even death can keep God from being real. Not even death can keep us from God. And that is a promise that is real. It's in these stories that I take hope in knowing that God is real in our lives. God is not somewhere far off, but God is close to me in the midst of the struggles of my life and the hard things that come. God is real and in the midst of hurricanes and earthquakes, of wildfires, of fears of deportation, of catastrophic war, of cancer, malaria, poverty. God is real and in the midst of these things, real enough to walk with us daily as we go through them. God is real in our daily walk of faith. It doesn't mean that our faith lives are perfect. We know God is with us in the good days, but I think more importantly, God is with us in the tough days too. God is real enough to love you, to love me, to love a world that seems to be falling apart these past weeks. My hope and prayer for you, sisters and brothers, is that you recognize the realness of God in your life. Maybe it means putting down your screens a little bit and intentionally taking time to pray, to think about God, to ask, where do I see God in the midst? Maybe it is through a screen sometimes, but sometimes I think God says, hey, let's put that thing down for a little bit. What might God be saying to you? How might God be challenging you? What opportunities to serve might God be bringing into your life? Because God is real, and because of this, in these coming weeks, next week we'll hear about real community, how having a real God calls us into real community, and a community that has a real purpose. And so I hope you come back these next weeks to hear about our real God living in our life, calling us into community, calling us out into our world. Thanks be to God for our real God. Amen.